This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello from and beyond Pinda Private Game Reserve. We've managed to find a beautiful female giraffe busy feeding right here next to this drying waterhole. A fantastic start to our afternoon. Welcome to your very own live safari from the wilds of Africa. Hello again, and once again, welcome to and beyond Pinda Private Game Reserve, where we are sitting with this beautiful giraffe as she browses on some succulent bushes there. My name is Damon, and behind the camera this afternoon we've got Craig, and we're looking forward to sharing a little bit of a new part of the reserve with you this afternoon. We've started off at this little waterhole here, and we've been looking around for tracks of animals that might have come down to drink. It's quite a dry region of our reserve, and so lots of animals have to come down to drink here. We've seen lots of different tracks of both white and black rhino and elephants, and of course this beautiful giraffe. Now, this is a live and interactive show, and so we'd love to hear from you. If you've got any questions, please send them through using the hashtag WildEarth, or if you're under the age of 18, you can email those questions through to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. But for the time being, look at how this female giraffe is busy moving between bushes, browsing as she goes, using that long tongue of hers to weave in between the thorns. And I think Craig and I are going to continue from here. We're going to go see if we can find some rhinos this afternoon.
A few elephant bulls doing exactly what elephant bulls should be doing on what is quite a warm and very sunny late winter's afternoon, spring afternoon, having a good mud bathe. Nothing wrong with it. I'd be doing much the same were I an elephant with thick skin and a long trunk. Hi, I'm Mike, and you've joined us here at Pridelands Conservancy with OD behind the camera. And we are really enjoying this. I mean, they're starting to dust bathe now. It's absolutely incredible. Every afternoon they seem to come and visit us. It's almost like clockwork, and you can see there's a pile of elephants there that are basically now starting to just roll in the mud. Beautiful.
Good afternoon, everyone. Here at Tswalu Game Reserve. It's such a beautiful day. Pretty open sky out there. What we see here, beautiful male leopard. Dingane again, he's still lying right in that shade. Easy breathing very peacefully, which shows that. Hi everyone, my name is Andrew. Behind the camera, it's BK, and we'll be just taking a look at this leopard to see what it does for us this afternoon. It's amazing when we move in here on our way into this thicket, not a really thicket, but the bush, was a bunch of impala. And they were sort of relaxed, which we were not sure. I was saying to BK, maybe that leopard is gone, he's not around here. And then we were just, going. We're not sure what we're going to find him or not, but look at him yawn. Such a beautiful whiskers. Teeth. We're going to stick around with him, see what he does.
Welcome to and beyond Ngala, where this afternoon we have a dead impala in a tree.
and with significantly less meat than it had this morning when we left it. Now, you can see it's hanging upside down, the head's facing straight down, and then the legs are dangling over at the back. Now, right at the top, above the head, that's where most of the meat was, and since then it's disappeared. There's no sign of the leopard yet. Now, myself, I'm Yapi, and behind the camera we have Gert. And we came here hoping that we might find the leopard with her cub here this afternoon, but unfortunately, there's no sign of her yet. I think we're going to wait here a little bit, see what happens this afternoon. I do wonder where she went. KB, how often do leopards need to eat? Well, it depends on the size of the leopard, I think. A male leopard has to eat a lot more, and that therefore they often have to eat more regularly. But a leopard like this is I'd say a decent sized female. She's not very large, and she has to eat at least every couple of days. Now, we hardly get a glimpse into their lives, and we only really see them occasionally when we find a carcass like this up a tree. Now, this impala had to be around about at least 40 kilos from what I can see. And this morning when we arrived here, the back legs were damaged badly. It looks like the hyenas had most of it. But she's eaten a decent amount. And therefore it makes me wonder whether the young one also had some. In a case like this particular leopard, her cub is about 1 year and 8 months old, which means that she is eating quite a lot at this point. So basically the mother's catching food for both of them, in which case it means that she will have to eat more regularly even. Now, they can go a couple of days after a good meal. Sometimes they can go up to a week, but if they do get the opportunity, they'll get as much as possible.
Welcome back. It's beautiful. I mean, leopard feed, having antelope up in a tree, it's such a beautiful thing. Same as what we got here with the Tingana. Very well blend in. As you can see, if you would walk around here not knowing what is around in this bush, you will walk right onto him. Only thing's gonna happen to you is probably a growl, or because this is what they do usually, since they've seen a lot of human track them. Look at that yawn. Normally, when the cats yawn, it's a sign of maybe they want to stand up or stretch, stand, or move. So it looks like he's not going to move for now.
Now, you can see this impala's like really stuffed up in the tree, and it looks like it's almost been left there in this way on purpose. Now, from where we are, this area is a little bit denser than the rest of the clearings that we've moved to get here to, and I think that's exactly why this leopard have chosen the spot. It's a pretty tall tree, even though it's got no leaves in it. I think it was high enough, and it was necessary for her to get it up as high as possible. When we arrived, there was one hyena, and it moved off when we came in. Now, I just had a quick listen out. I thought I heard something, but then again, it could have been anything. I thought I heard some footsteps, which might be one of the hyenas that was nearby earlier, returning. At the moment, I can't see any of them. I think they might have realized that they're not going to get anything and decided to move off. Where the leopard itself, I'm not sure. She might still be somewhere nearby in this thick bush, but it's difficult for us to maneuver around here, and we also don't want to maneuver with the vehicle too much through the bush. So it will be very difficult to find her unless she comes back. But just have a look at how tall that tree is. And it looks like quite a tricky tree to climb as well, which is part of the reason I think she had to take that impala up there in a haste. Now, earlier I saw underneath the tree there's some fur of the impala all over, and I think she had it in a different branch, plucked it, and then it might have dropped, and the hyenas had a bit of it, and then she stole it back and dragged it up as high as possible. I can hear some birds alarming there at the back, and if we're really lucky, they might be calling at the leopard returning, or maybe just moving around in the shade.
Welcome back to And Beyond Phinda, where Craig and I are busy searching for a black rhino this afternoon. So we've been driving around looking carefully for fresh tracks as well as fresh dung from last night. But we've also been paying careful attention to bushes, looking for any feeding signs of the black rhino on the bushes. Of course, black rhino, when they feed, many of you may know they've got quite a distinctive way of cutting the branches at a 45-degree angle. So I've been keeping a lookout for that. But before I get into too much into this, just a reminder, we are of course live, and so please do send through any questions or comments that you might have to us using the hashtag WildEarth, or if you're under the age of 18, send them through to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. And just something caught my eye over here. Have a look at these beautiful flowers that are starting to grow up on the top of this little creeper here. And this looks like a woolly caper bush. Look at these beautiful white flowers with these long filaments that are growing off here. A sure sign that spring is on the way. Darcy Ann, you're saying that they are very pretty flowers. Darcy Ann, I wish you could see them in person, and I'm going to give them a smell to see if they've got any fragrance. Not very strong just yet, but I'm sure that as we get into summer a bit more and further into spring, they'll start to smell a bit more, and lots of different butterflies will come and feed, will come and sit on these flowers. But look at how this little creeper's growing on top of this scented pod here, this big, this little thorn tree. And I've been having a careful look around on these little branches, looking for any sign of that 45-degree angle that I spoke about, where a black rhino may have been feeding. I found a couple of old feeding signs here on this little thorn bush, but nothing super fresh. So I think from here we're going to have to carry on, and we're going to look for some fresher feeding sign. But nice to see all these flowers, and just beautiful seeing that spring, or as I said, a sure sign that spring is on its way.
Hello, and good afternoon. Welcome to these parts of the Mara. I'm at the Mara River. My name once again, Isaac, and on camera I have Big James. We're still here at the river, and a lot has happened. We have still a good number of wildebeest ready to cross, and we'll be, checking them out if they're going to come down to the river. But to start with, over here we have a massive crocodile with a head of a wildebeest. You can tell how full they are. They have eaten quite a lot, and that is all that is left. That is a crocodile and a fully grown wildebeest head. That's how strong these guys are. He has decided that he's had enough, but he still wants to keep a little bit for later. I doubt if he's going to eat it because they've been so fussy this time of the year. Remember to talk to us on hashtag Wild Earth. Questions and comments are very, very welcome. Remember, this is a live show coming from the Masai Mara. This is where I am, and I'm on the banks of the beautiful Mara River. Over there, we have a few wildebeest still wanting to cross, and they know why, it is dangerous, and that's why they are staying back there. They have to be very, very, very careful, and this is all that happens every day. They have to get here to the river and then decide when to cross. I don't know how long it's going to take. I hope they come down and cross, and I'll be ready to share it with you.
It's a beautiful croc feeding on a wildebeest in the water. Quite a beautiful things. With our man over here, legend. He's just lying down there. He hasn't moved anything, or he hasn't get around much since we got around here. So this is redshirt. So a leopard population in Djuma for the past few years, even 10 years back there, I seen higher population of leopards. And then, of course, sometimes it just went down just because of movement they do, territory they change to, move out back to Kruger Park, that we don't see them much. And then, that time, we used to see a lot of leopards a day, 7 sometimes, sighting was seen. And then went up or low down, then we struggle a little bit to see them. But then when I'm talking about struggling to see them, we seen at least maybe 3 in one drive, and then it goes down to maybe 1 each drive, or maybe none. But also doesn't mean that, they're not around just because they're sneaky and they're very difficult to find. So in the whole entire Djuma, at the moment, we see about 4 or 5 leopards coming in from the north, from the east, and from the west. But also remember, this doesn't mean that this is the only leopards we got. It's so that sometimes it happens when the territory change, when they move in, they find there's no one around. So this is where maybe you find a lot of leopards, because then they have to fight for that territory if it's the male. And then otherwise it can be maybe less just because of that, when once there's no one coming in, and it means that no leopards around or interested reactivating that boundary, territorial area. So we seen Tingana come in, move one of the big male here, was Mvula, and again was Okumur coming from the west, come in to claim the territory. So it's kind of like so much going on between them. That's why they keep coming back always. So this is what Subsistence is all about, especially Djuma Game Reserve.
Talking about how territories constantly shift, I've actually witnessed this leopard. When I arrived, she was still a very, very young leopard, so I kind of saw her grow up all the way to where she is now, and she is at the moment laying in an area that used to belong to her mother. And when she grew older and stronger, she started moving in this area more, and her mother started moving more towards the central parts and the western part of the reserve. But just look how well she's blending in here. I think because of the type of tree that impala was stuffed in, and the fact that it's such a difficult tree for her to be resting in, she's come to find a spot low down in the shade, not too far from the tree, but not right at the base. Pajama donkey. At what age do leopards learn to climb trees? Now, normally by the time we see the small leopard cubs, they already know how to climb a tree, and that would be anything from about 8 to 12 weeks old. They are quite capable from a very, very young age. They've already got very sharp claws, and they've got very, very strong limbs as well. In fact, usually when the leopard reaches about 6 months to a year old, because of their size and the fact that they're smaller than their mother, I've often seen them climb right up to the top of a tree if there's any potential danger nearby. You can see she's got her eyes closed. Every now and again she's looking over in the direction of us, and she does have her ears up though. And you'll notice there's some subtle movements in the ears. Just to keep watch. Listen out for anything moving nearby, maybe that hyena returning. But she's basically telling us that at this stage it's extremely hot. So we can see that she's gone and put her head back down. Megan, what a beautiful girl she is indeed, eh? In fact, I think that might be one of the reasons why I enjoy watching this leopard so much. I think she is a very pretty leopard, and she actually looks a lot like what I would imagine her mother looked like at this age. You can see she's stretched out, she's quite comfortable. Look at the tail tip. Just literally just a tip flicking every now and again. You can see those large white blotches. Or not white blotches, sorry, I mean the black blotches on the white. And then as it gets up along the back legs and onto the back, you can see there's some little bit of brown and like that ochre color coming in. Okay, now that she's laying flat down, now we can see she is breathing a little bit more heavily. And I think that's because she's got a full belly. You can see the ears flicking, so there's a lot of flies bothering her, and I'm sure it must be pretty irritating.
Welcome back to Ambion Pinda. Craig and I have managed to find a beautiful kudu bull. Look at those lovely spiraling horns. And that beautiful... Oh, don't go... Oh, he's got a bit of a growth on the side of his neck there. I don't know if you were able to see that. There's a big lump on the side of his neck, and it looks like he's heading down. Oh, there's his horns just sticking out top of the bush. Look at that. And we're right on the edge of a bit of a ravine here with very dense vegetation all around it. Just the perfect place for these kudu to be resting in the late afternoon and feeding as well. With them being browsers, they'll be looking for tasty, fresh leaves to feed on. Like we said, with the coming of spring, there's quite a few trees that are starting to flush with fresh leaves, and that's something that these kudu will be looking for, but also something that the black rhino that Craig and I are searching for will be looking for.
Welcome back to the Mara, and I have changed position, and look what I have, a pile of crocodiles. Look up on how fat they are. They've eaten so well in the last 2 months. They are just fat. Of course, I know they don't understand English, so I can use that word. They're very big. They've been eating so well. Look at them. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And these are just but a few. This river is infested with these monsters. It's for no swimming. These guys, every day, they take a good number of wildebeest. Of course, they don't do enough dent because we have enough wildebeest. Without them, they contribute, to the crocodiles contribute to making sure that the numbers are put in check. Without them, some of the wildebeest, the numbers of wildebeest will just explode. Julia, hello. From my experience, I look at the head. The head of the males is usually short and stumpy, I mean thick. Females are not as thick and they're slightly elongated. Also, the coloration of the male of the female is much lighter. You find it's got some yellow and spots. Males tend to be darker as they age. That is through my experience here watching them over the years. Look at the river right now. It is empty, but there is crocodiles everywhere. Here we have one of my favorite birds, the sacred ibis, and she's deciding to look pretty, amongst all the chaos, amongst all the death that's around and the danger. She's, deciding to look pretty. Look at that. Yeah, she's gonna go to dinner this evening. This is a sacred ibis, a bird that is found in sub-Saharan Africa. Also in the Arab countries, it is found there. It gets its name from appearing in the Egyptian gods, related to a god called Thoth in the Egyptian gods. Yes, I'm at the river, and there is nobody right now who wants to cross because I think majority of them decided to go back. So everybody has decided to go back and maybe cross tomorrow. And the crocodile looks like he's decided also to go somewhere where he's going to retire for the night. I'm going to move on. And meanwhile, I'm going to watch this guy leave, and then I'm going to move on.
We're still just here next to Ndlovu Dam, basically at the edge of our camp, and the elephants have stopped to feed on this greener vegetation. The fact that we've got a camp here means that a lot of other herbivores like kudus and buffaloes don't come here. So there's a lot more green stuff than would otherwise be found out in the veld, and the elephants take full advantage of it. In fact, they've been rearranging a few things closer to the tent at the back there. But it's quite beautiful, though, having them around. We do have to be on our toes, however, because they are big and powerful animals. This one here, as you can see, is Limpy, or Ivar, as we sometimes know him. Ivar the Boneless, because he's got one leg, which is a little bit shorter than the other, and sort of just flops around. But he's fast becoming a favorite of mine, just because he's the best of all the elephants that I've ever seen. He's so calm. And he's had a good mud bath. I don't know if you can see it very easily there with the sun backlighting him, but he's covered in mud all over. He had a good mud bath earlier with all the rest of the bulls, and now he's just having a snack. I'm not sure what he's feeding on. Looks like maybe There's some other vehicles with us, so if you do hear some voices, it's just another vehicle that's just come to the sighting now. Ivar, Limpy, just feeding on. So if you look very carefully where his feet are, you'll notice there's a little bit of greenery there at the base of these little bushes. Now, that there is from the shade of these trees, and we had a tiny bit of rain that fell a few days ago, and so that has allowed this shade to keep the ground moist and the grass a bit greener, and that's what the elephants are focusing on. Now remember, this elephant doesn't have great eyesight, so it's relying on its incredible sense of smell to be able to sniff out those tasty little shoots that are starting to come out now. And he looks very, very pleased about it. See, every now and again he'll use his feet just to kick up and pull up a clump of grass with roots and all, because remember, the roots is where all the good stuff is being hidden now in the winter time.
Craig and I have managed to find some rhinos, not the black rhino we've been searching for, but rhinos nonetheless. Have a look at these two young white rhinos. See how they're both facing in the same direction, facing into the wind, just like those kudu, taking some shelter in this thicket over here. Look at all those vicious thorns of the bushes in front of them, and then have a look at the scratches down the sides of their bodies from them pushing through all of these thorny thickets. If you look closely also on that one, just behind its shoulder, can you see all those flies that are crawling around over there? And even on the sides of the rhino as well. Perhaps looking for some moisture off of this rhino. See that very shallow saddle between the shoulder and that kind of little hump on its back. One of the ways that we can tell without looking at its face that it's a white rhino, not a black rhino. The black rhino Craig and I are searching for this afternoon will have a much deeper saddle between that front shoulder, or between the shoulder and its hips. Look at how still they're standing. But always those ears swiveling around, listening very carefully to their surroundings. And I'd mentioned that they were two young rhinos. The one looks like a young male. I was able to see it when it was still moving around before it stood still. The other I haven't been able to get a good look at just yet. The two youngsters that have been pushed away by their mothers, or by their respective mothers, who have no doubt now taken on or given birth to new calves and are no longer wanting or willing to look after these ones now that they've grown big enough to fend for themselves. And so they've kind of just sought out each other's company, being quite gregarious animals. It looked like the one that's closest to us. See how it bumped into the other one at the back there? Almost as if to say, come on, let's get a move along. It's busy smelling the ground there. I wonder if maybe another rhino has scent marked here. Striped horse, you're asking if any predators ever try to hunt rhino. Striped horse, because rhinos are so big, they would be very difficult to hunt for large predators. Even big prides of lions will rather try and tackle smaller, easier prey than a rhino. Every now and then, those striped horse, under certain circumstances, like if the rhino is malnourished or weak or sick or old or injured, then they might try predators like lion prides or big clans of hyenas. They might try it, but it's for the predators. It's all about weighing up the benefit of the amount of food they'll get from them.
So we got the elephant still feeding here. Sorry about that. The elephant's still feeding on these small bushes at the edge of our camp, being very delicate, actually, just a moment there, using just the tip of its trunk to pick at the leaves and things. It's amazing when you watch them. They were breaking massive branches earlier, being quite destructive, and now the little few twigs and things that have fallen to the ground, they're busy just plucking them up, and it's quite incredible watching them just push them into their mouths. It's very, very interesting how they use their trunks in different ways. Right, we're going to keep watching this elephant now for just a little while longer and see what else they get up to in our camp.
Back where there was a beautiful leopard, which is still napping. No sign of, you only see the ears twitching, and this is going to be probably take him a while to be able to move around here, because remember, they are nocturnal. So they either wait, or he would wait for a duck. Maybe first things he'll go down to drink before you move around. And there's been some impala around here. Maybe just before you drink, he will be polite enough. Good luck with one of the impala down. So then he would have a meal otherwise for a night. Hashtag Wild Earth. Beautiful sun out here. And now the sun is opening again, since it was a cloud that crossed by. You can see the beauty of a light that penetrating through this wood. Well, looks like for me he hasn't eaten for the last a few days. I'm not sure if he eaten anything, but maybe a smaller thing. Kim want to know how much elephants sleep during the day. So they can, sorry with the radio, so they can sleep up to nearly 20 hours, 23 hours, but like he just got there this morning, and then he's been just take it easy like this for the whole entire day. And when I look at that, it looks like there's not much of a shadow. Looks like what the sun was right on him. Maybe he's just trying to move around and trying to catch up with the shadow. Of course, I've seen once upon a time that leopards sleep for the whole day. We find him early in the morning. When during the day he was still sleeping in there and hungry, and when they're late in the drive, he was still there. So then he slept for the whole hours. But if it's anything that sometimes interfere him, could be a mongoose, could be a scrub hare, could be any duiker, then that's where you wake up and interested on hunting on those.
So this female leopard's just got up and she's walked behind the vehicle. Now we're in quite a tricky spot at this point. It'll be very difficult to reverse at the moment to try and see if we can get another view. So I'm just giving a chance to move past view, actually. I think we might get a view of her in a moment. At this point, it looks like she might be looking for her young one. Because we've heard some contact calls, and it is very, very soft at this point. So I'm sure the young one isn't far off from this area. Angie, how old is her cub? We were actually just discussing that. Now, it is very difficult to say exactly because we don't see these cubs being born ever. Just heard what sounded like crunching. Oh, I can see Aina far off in the distance. Now, she's moved off somewhere off to our left. Now, we were discussing this earlier, and this young one might be about 1 year, 6 months, 7 months to 8 months old. We're not entirely sure at this stage.
So, still with these elephants, and they're not moving very fast anywhere at all. They're enjoying the little bits of grass here. You know, they pushed down that apple leaf tree that this one is standing on a couple of weeks ago, and it's actually created a bit of a shelter there where other grass has managed to start just growing underneath, and that's quite good for these elephants, because it's at the moment there's not much food around elsewhere, so they need to get whatever they can whenever they can. You know, it might still be a couple of more weeks or maybe even months if we have a very late start to our rain season before we start getting the major green flush. And we might actually see, let's say, if it rains elsewhere within 50 kilometers of here a lot, these animals can actually smell that. They might actually migrate for a short period to wherever there's food or abundance of food before coming back to their core areas. Remember, they're not territorial, not like lions and leopards, which kind of have to stay in their own area unless it's absolutely no food left. And if there was no food, many times animals just end up dying. But elephants don't have a territory. They've got a home. Hey, you can't steal the food out of his mouth. That's great. Look at that. That's Limpy over there. He's just reaching. He's getting a bit lazy. He's trying to implore his friend to give him a bite. Wasn't going to happen though. Oh, that's okay. You can find your own food. But yes, so elephants have a home range, which can be huge, massive, in fact. And they'll use the whole of that home range, and they can extend and make the home range bigger, should they need to. They don't defend their territories or their areas against other elephants, which is good, because imagine how aggressive that could get. These are all males. Imagine if they were all fighting each other to get to the water or to get to the food around this camp. It would be a disaster. I'm glad to see they look very calm. Oh, gotta get your leg over there. Ouch. So we're going to keep watching. Oh, looks like Limpy's got his trunk in a bit of a tricky situation there on the right. He's reaching up into the tops of this boerbean to try and get a little snack.
Okay, welcome back. I've moved away from the river. Oh, sorry about that. I've come across this beautiful flock of cattle egrets, sacred ibis, yellow-billed stock, all resting. Looks like they have a very successful morning. To see them resting, not hunting, means that they had had enough to eat, and they're very happy right now to digest everything nice and slowly. Of course, this is a very beautiful area to be in, and accompanied by a lot of impala. This is a harem of impala. Remember, this is one antelope that we find in the Mara. Usually they come in harems where there's a male with a good number of females, and here they're chewing their cud after eating enough. They're ruminating and enjoying whatever they ate this morning. It looks like it's a good harem because they have lots of young ones with them, about maybe a month old, and they all look very happy. One of them looks tired and it wants to rest. Well, in company of this many, it is nice to rest. There is enough security. to look out for any danger. HH, thank you for your comment. You say it's a beautiful gathering. Indeed it is, and they look very relaxed. Lots of females. A few of them looks like they're carrying some babies, like the one facing to the right. She looks ready to drop a baby or a foal. Yeah, many of them looks the same. There's also the one behind her. Also, she looks like she's carrying one. They're all enjoying a good time in the evening. This is one unique antelope. I love impalas, and the main reason is they have the capability to jump with the least effort. They can high jump for up to around 36 feet, which is about 12 meters, and almost 18 feet high. So they're able to jump over most obstacles in case of danger. Also, they have amazing glands on their hind legs where they can secrete chemical, so such that when the danger is over, they can find one another. And that's why when you look on their hind feet, they have a black marking on their hind feet just above the ankles. You see that. It's called a metatarsal or fetlock gland. It's very necessary for them. When they drop the chemical into the grass, they can locate each other after danger. Of course, before they do that, they have amazing eyesight, sense of hearing, and also smelling. So they will avoid any danger approaching them. And if it gets close, then they will use the gland. They are favored by cheetahs, hyenas, and leopards, but they're in the menu for all predators. I don't see the male. I don't know if he got chomped or what. Yeah, so I don't know where he is, but I'm looking for him. Hopefully I can find him, but I don't know.
Beautiful, here we go. Looks like he just blinking a little bit of his eye. This beautiful Tingana is still in this shade. And the birds calling around him. Oh, here you go. Looks like he's just gonna now yawn. Well, water's not far from here, so he might be interested in going drink. Look at that tongue. Look at those teeth. This is a powerful cat, built up with the muscles. And seeing a cat like that host a kill full-grown impala, baby kudus, baby waterbuck. That's where you would know they are built with such a powerful muscles. So they usually host almost their weight, average size of their kill, up in a tree. And reason for that, it's just because of safety. When you feed from the tree, it's a lot safer. But then you got a bird of air, which is most raptor and vultures. These are also scavengers. And sometimes by leopard doing that, vulture coming in, attract a lot of other problem, which is a hyena. Lions also, they use vultures from the air when they fly. So look at them, what they're doing. If they're in a sign of this bird landing, and they will run into direction very quickly, even if it's a hot day, just to check what these vultures are there for, usually. This is how they do it. This is how the lions scavenge from these guys.
So she stood up, moved around where we are, and then had a very, very brief encounter with the hyena, and then went to go lay down right here in the long grass. Now somewhere behind her, her cub is. And her cub has come to say hello, and as soon as the hyena started moving over into this direction, she moved off somewhere into that thick bush there behind her. You can see the mother's very relaxed. She's not even picking up her head, and I'm sure in due time that'll rub off on the little one. Chantal, when do leopard cubs start to eat meat? Usually around 2.5 months. That's more or less the time that we start seeing them feeding. But they are not weaned until they are at least about 6 months old. Sometimes even longer. Just have a look at that belly. You can see she's had something to eat. And we often think that leopard cubs only get fed by their mother, but when they are about 2.5, 3 months old, they can move around very, very diligently in trees, and they often chase small little birds and squirrels and stuff. So I often wonder how much of their diet is made up of smaller protein sources. I know for sure that they do take bugs or insects, beetles, wherever they can. Just look at those ears. You can see it's up. It's constantly listening out. Vanessa, will another predator kill the cub if they are alone? I think there's a real risk of that, yes. If they get the chance, they'll more than likely try and kill them. Maybe a large hyena, a male leopard that's not the father, or even another female. And if that cub doesn't run off and tries to stand its ground or it gets cornered, there's a good chance it might get killed. I have noticed that usually there's kind of like a curious game going on between the hyena and the young leopard, because the leopard can climb the tree and the hyena can't get to it. So that's where they usually come. They try and watch its movements, and then if the hyena goes after it, it'll run up the nearest tree. But most other big predators, they know what a small leopard will turn into, and essentially it'll become competition within the area. So they'll try to kill them if they get the chance. And it looks like she's having quite a good nap at this moment.
It seems that Craig and I have managed to find every single large herbivore except for a black rhino this afternoon. Look at this magnificent elephant bull that's here in front of us. He's just very slowly making his way through these guarri thickets. And we've been talking earlier about how elephants will often dig up roots to get to them during the winter time, when there's often not so much nutritious foliage for them to feed on. And that's precisely what he's been doing. He's been using those big feet of his to dig for roots, and he's been picking them up and shoveling them into his mouth. And he's now turned his attention to a little creeper, it looks like. But it seems that he's also making his way down this hill, just like those rhinos we saw earlier. Busy feeding his way down into the low reaches of this little ravine. Maybe going to go look to get out of the wind. Oh, look at this. There's a second elephant bull that's just arrived, everyone. Making his way in from the right. Look at how much smaller this elephant's tusks are than that first bull. And look at how they're also skew. There's one that goes forward and then one that goes straight down. So more than likely just to do with his genetics. And also interesting to see having the two bulls so close together, being able to see the size comparison. This much younger bull being not much shorter in terms of height, but look at how high up his legs that belly is. He looks a lot more skinny, not as bulky as the big bull that we were watching initially. And it looks like he's also found something tasty to feed on there. Look at how his eyes are downturned, looking at the ground, looking down that enormous trunk of his, and picking up, looks like also some low-growing creepers there, sprawling around the base of a bush. And we're just going to watch as he walks past the front of us, following that big bull there. But in no rush. Have a look at his back, and there's that patch of light. Can you see that red sand along his hips there, where he's been throwing the red earth onto his back, dust bathing? Big flap of his ears. It was quite interesting to see earlier. The wind is blowing directly from that elephant to us, and earlier was facing towards us, and so the wind was kind of blowing from his rear end towards his head, and it was almost like the wind was holding his ears out. Which of course is often a warning sign from an elephant to you, telling you that you're too close and that he doesn't want you nearby. Dela, you're asking if male elephants will protect each other, and it depends on what. We're just going to move out of the way of this elephant bull, just to give him a bit more space. Dela, it depends on what you are. Just 1 second while we move out of.
Beautiful. He's just now sitting or lying, but looking. Was a bird that was running around, so he kind of stood up, looked around. We were not too sure what he was doing, but eventually we saw Natal Franklin, one of the spare fowls, the bird, that was moving around in a further distance. But he's still looking there, one of the animals that could take from, a smaller size of, prey, which is a bird, mongoose, and squirrels, scrub hares, monitor lizard, starving leopard will go for everything they could as long as some meat. Yeah, remember, guys, this is your live. This is your screen right now, so you can drop in a question that you wish and we'll answer your questions. It just looks like he's now thinking of no. So leopard roughly, they are very sneaky, and they are silent hunter, and that's why he's gonna take his time there.
So we've got a bit of a different angle now. We've actually gone into our camp to film the elephants. They've moved a little bit towards where we were before, giving them a bit of space to move around. That's amazing just to watch them. They feel so comfortable around here, which is really excellent. And this goes to show that our presence isn't disturbing them unduly. You know, we do strive to minimize our impact in these areas so that they can enjoy the water in the area around us more or less without disturbance. You can see there's 3 of the 5 elephants that were at the water earlier right there. The light is so beautiful now with a few clouds in the background. It's actually super gorgeous as the light hits them on the side. Now you can really see the mud that's on their bodies from where they were mud wallowing. That mud will be keeping them cool. There's a bit of a cool breeze now that will be helping them. They're very big animals. So while the day was very hot, they would have been warming up and up and up and up. And now towards the evening, it'll take them a long time to cool down. So they're just helping to speed up the process by covering their bodies in that mud. It also helps to keep the bugs from biting them. Michael, that is exactly why they play in the mud. And that's a great question and it's a great observation. They love to play in the mud because it helps them to stay cool, as I just mentioned. Helps bugs to stop biting them, as I also mentioned. But it also helps to, when they want to clean themselves, they rub this dirt on their body, which doesn't seem like it makes sense to put dirt on you to clean yourself. But the mud then rubs off, and it's not so much about cleaning their skin of like dirt. It's more like taking off any dead skin that might be on them. So they rub themselves against the trees, which rubs off any dead skin, and also any parasites like ticks and fleas, which might be on their skin. They'll rub those right off. Sometimes, Michael, if you go up to a tree which an elephant has been rubbing on, and you look at that mud and you dig around in it a bit, sometimes you actually find little ticks stuck in that mud, which is super cool to see. If you can hear noises in the background, there's one elephant being a bit pesky in our camp. They always do, and we make sure that all of our students, when they're in the camp, know exactly how to behave around elephants. So as you see, these elephants are super calm. There's no students in camp right now, but even if there were, we strive that they would be just as relaxed as they are right now. The students will stay in their tents and watch the elephants calmly, not making any noise. Because remember, elephants don't want conflict. No animal really wants conflict with anyone if they can avoid it. So if you move out of the way of the more powerful animal, generally speaking, they will continue doing what they do without worrying about anything else. Just like lions, for example, if you see lions sitting at the edge of a water hole and elephants want to come and have a drink, even though the lions are called the king of the beasts, they are still much smaller and not as powerful as elephants. So they will move out of the way. So that's all we have to do. We just follow the lead of the more powerful animal.
Craig and I are still sitting with these 2 elephant bulls. That youngster is about to make his way across the road to go and join his older companion. And Della, I didn't quite get to answer your question. You were asking if one elephant bull will protect another. And Della, it depends on what happens to them. So I suppose if, what I've seen before in the Greater Kruger area around a drying waterhole in the middle of winter where there were lots and lots of old elephant bulls or elephant bulls of all ages coming down to drink. There was one in particular, Della, a very, very, very old bull with very big tusks. And he arrived with almost like an entourage of a whole host of younger bulls, some of which youngsters like this young one with the skewed tusks here, and some of them already coming into their prime but still much younger than the old bull. And they were all drinking quite peacefully. And suddenly an enormous elephant bull came walking in from the side, and he was kind of in his prime, like I said, very big, and he made a beeline towards the water. He was holding his head up high, he had his ears out, and he was kind of showing off as he was walking up to the water to display his size and his strength. And he saw this old bull with the big tusks standing next to the water, and this old bull, his temples were sunk in and his skin looked too big for his frame, and he looked quite weak and quite tired, and he was barely able to kind of respond to this big bull and his threatening approach. And this newcomer made his way straight towards the old bull as if to go and try and intimidate him and push him out the way. Oh, look at that. You see how the young bull was putting his trunk in the older bull's mouth? Sorry, Della. So then that's unreal. That's amazing to see. But there's a whole conversation to go around that. So let me just quickly finish off my story, Della. So what happened then was quite amazing. So this old bull obviously was not going to be able to stand up for himself against this new bull. And all of a sudden, all of the younger bulls kind of stepped into the way of this newcomer and put themselves between... Oh, look at... Ooh. Shame. That must have hurt. The old guy stuck his tusk into the younger bull's rear end. That must have hurt a little bit. So yeah, long story short, Della, the young bulls stepped in and basically blocked this new aggressive bull from getting to the old bull, and they intimidated him and pushed him away to the other side of the waterhole. But amazing to see that behavior there with that younger bull sticking his trunk into the older bull's mouth. And I've heard stories of, because obviously that's where, like many animals, that's where the organ of Jacobson, or the vomeronasal organ, sits in the elephant, is in the roof of the mouth, just like all other animals. Perhaps the younger bull was passing a smell onto the older bull, or perhaps he was wanting to or maybe by smelling there, he was able to glean some information from the older bull. I've heard a story once of elephant herds in an area where poaching was quite extensive, and there was a group of guests with their guide that were watching this herd of elephants approaching a waterhole, and they were all downwind of the elephants and well concealed, so the elephants definitely couldn't see them. The elephants kept coming towards them, and eventually they moved away out of sight, but they were still downwind and they were still watching them. And apparently what happened next was one of the members of the herd went and stood exactly where the people had been standing, and she smelled the ground, and she immediately froze as she realized, okay, there's the smell of human beings here. And she then put the tip of her trunk into her mouth, no doubt to analyze that, or perhaps to analyze the scent with her organ of Jacobson. And she then hurriedly walked across to the matriarch of the herd, with having gathered up some more smell from the ground, and then stuck her trunk into the mouth of the matriarch. And apparently the matriarch froze as well, and then there must have been some inaudible sound that she produced that caused the whole herd to immediately bunch around her. There was no messing around, no hesitation. All of the elephants immediately bunched around her, and they all followed her as they moved off in the opposite direction. So obviously, by doing that, she had conveyed to the matriarch, she'd basically carried the smell, we can only assume, from where she picked it up to the matriarch. The matriarch was able to analyze the smell and realize, okay, there's humans here, potential danger, and she was then able to communicate to her family to move off. But very interesting behavior to watch was that little interaction there between the two bulls. And then shame that younger bull now standing off to the side, no doubt sulking a little bit after having a bit of a scolding. Perhaps it was an unpleasant smell that the youngster put into the older bull's mouth. But aside from that story and from the explanation that I was given, I don't know very much about that behavior, and so I'm going to have to go and do a bit more research on why elephants do that.
So our elephants are still basically slowly demolishing these weeping boer beans outside of the camp close to the dam. And this one at the back there is doing a very interesting pose. I'm not really a yoga person. I'm not a yogi, but I've done a few sessions, and I think there's something called the warrior pose, where you sort of stretch your back leg out and then you sort of reach up to the sky or something like that. Or maybe it's called sun worship. You will know better than I. But it was very fun to watch. I really feel like we should have something called elephant yoga. What do you think? Elephant yoga? Is that the newest hot thing? All the celebrities will be doing it before long. See, look, it's going to reach up again. Isn't that amazing? So it can't quite reach up. You know, if they have a certain point where they can't look any more up, so then they lower their back legs in order to get a bit more of an angle. He's doing the warrior pose. That's very fun. Such a happy looking elephant. All these elephants getting the green leaves. I mean, what more could you want in life? You've got green leaves, you've got all your friends, and you've got a belly full of water. It's awesome. Maybe he could brush his teeth once in a while. It's not looking so clean. He's agreeing with me. You're right. He did nod his head there, Odie. Look, even in the eyes. So I have heard lots of guides before me when I was still starting out in the industry would always tell me about soft eyes on an elephant. If the elephant has soft eyes, then you know it doesn't mean you any harm. It's not frustrating. This elephant has the softest eyes. Look at those soft brown eyes. I could stare in those eyes all day. Such a calm and powerful presence, elephants. Oh, a little pause there for a moment. He's got his trunk a little tangled in the branches. That's such an interesting angle. Oh, there, he's got it out. Okay, managed to untangle himself. You know when you're lifting something heavy and you end up pinching your fingers together, but the more you try and untangle, the more your fingers get pinched. It's like those deck chairs or garden lawn chairs. That's what it looked like. The harder he was trying to get his trunk untangled, the more it was pinching between two branches. He's managed to get it out though. Well done. Good job. Striped horse, that's a good question, and I'll have to do a bit of research in it, but I know that they can live, a long time, and, bull elephants just look so much larger, and because they're easier to identify, we tend to follow them a bit easier, so we always know just how old bull elephants are, but I suppose some areas where they've really gotten to know the cows, the females, they might know. I don't think that there's a particular distinction between how old males and females get, but I'll have a look. I'll have to do a bit of research to find out. Can I get back to you on that striped horse? I'd love to actually look up that for myself. In this area, with all the dry vegetation they have to eat during the winter months, I'm sure you could hear that crested francolin making a bit of noise there. With all the dry vegetation they have to eat, they probably don't live as long as can do. What on earth? Now we've got the downwards facing elephant pose. Hey, isn't that cool? I think it was trying to dig up a root, but I'm not 100% sure. It could have been doing absolutely anything. Well, just whacking him in the face with his butt. These young bulls are the weirdest group of people. They're so comfortable. You know when you've got a really good group of friends and you can basically just be yourself and just do whatever you want? That's this group of elephants, I think. So because, getting back to my original point, I digressed for quite a while there. Getting back to my original point of eating dry vegetation during the winter, it means their teeth, of which they only grow a certain amount of sets in their life, get damaged. And then once those teeth are completely destroyed, they can't eat anymore, and eventually they basically just decline and then eventually starve. It's a very slow process. It's quite natural, though. It happens to all elephants eventually. Where it's wetter, they can eat the green, soft vegetation longer and live a lot longer.
Good afternoon and welcome to more Kruger Park elephants. Here we are in the Sabi Sands with a wonderful breeding herd feeding down in the drainage. Hello everybody, my name is Steve, joined by Theo Island-style camera, and excited to have you with us. Sorry that delayed us from joining the show, but here we are, we're with you, and we've got some elephants. Now, I'm feeding on some dwarf scotias here, little dwarf boer beans. This mum has absolutely destroyed a plant so far that her youngster was learning all about. Now she's moved on to the next one. searching for food. Emily, they do have eyelashes. Can you see them there, Theo, through the bush? They do. They've got very pretty eyelashes. It's hard to see through the thorns. They're not as pretty as that of a giraffe's eyelashes, but they do. Yeah, they are very nice eyelashes. Sorry we can't show you a better view. Maybe this one coming through on the top there might show itself in a moment. No? Might have to move back. There's one bush between the camera and these elephants' eyelashes, but they do. They've got eyelashes which obviously protect them. They do walk through the bushes all the time, so probably the weakest part of the elephant's body is probably the eye. Everything else is quite tough. There we go. Maybe in front of us, this one's going to show us a face in a moment. There we go. Here comes some eyelashes. There are some wonderful eyelashes of this elephant as it's feeding in the thickets.
Look at this. It was trying to get a root out of the ground when it was doing its downward elephant pose. Oh, but of course now Olympia has moved right in the way. But there's a very thick root of the same weeping boerbean that's being decimated by these elephants. This thing is going through the wars. But that elephant literally pulled the whole root out of the ground and then used its tusks on its knees, trying to debark the root to get to the good stuff. It's a very thick root. It's still trying. You can still see it there. I'm sort of manipulating that root. It's now in the shade, so you can't see it very easily. That was really cool to watch. You see it's taken off a whole bunch of the thick outer layer of that root. It's a very thick root, so the middle part of it is probably very tough. The outer part is probably what is doing most of the transportation of the water and minerals from the ground. Pretty awesome. It was very defensive. When this elephant first approached, he chased it off, did not want the elephant to get any of its newfound delicacy. Holy moly, Rosalind. That's a great question. In fact, I actually got a decibel meter on my phone the other day, specifically to listen to the sounds of different animals. It's very difficult, though, to know when to switch it on, exactly when an elephant's going to trumpet. But it's very loud. I'm sure that an elephant's trumpet can probably go up into the hundreds of decibels, like 100 decibels, something like that. I think loud traffic is around 80 to 90 decibels, something like that. So it's louder than a truck, let's say. So it's probably, up to 100 decibels, maybe a bit more. It's very loud. Trust me, when you're next to an elephant and it does a very loud trumpet, you almost want to close your ears because it's also quite scary. Many times when we have students staying for the first night here at Pride Lands, and the elephants, of course, come to the dam at the night, especially when it's a full moon, they start trumpeting and socializing and doing all sorts of stuff. And the students are sometimes very surprised by the loudness of elephants for an animal that's usually considered very calm.
Beautiful, love. He's a leopard. He decided to move slightly east from where he is, but he's sniffing up in the air. Looks like I don't know, it's one of the scavengers wildcats. So we've seen bartolé fly around here. This is what makes me now think of maybe he smells something far, could be nearby. But you see how now he's active, he's not actually sleepy. And remember, we'll be joined by the other vehicle. Hi everyone, my name's Andrew. DK behind the camera. We'll be just talking about this leopard, see what he does from there, but he seems to be just scanning around, look around for anything possible that could be around for him. Beautiful. Doesn't look like he just, see how he's alert. A male there. He's slightly west from where Kalambo was seen yesterday. It's far west from there. So, but you never know. It could be that maybe she's still around in the area, but there was no evidence of her tracks or anything this morning. But yeah, it's far away from where she was seen yesterday. But also, if it's that so, could be that maybe they seen one another or whatever happened in the middle of the night, because also this male, he came in the middle of the night, crossed the border, northern border, south towards us. And this is how he's been found this morning. But that case that happened, they won't stick around. They're a very solitary animal. I seen a young female that was just came independent. Every time meet its mother, the mother growled at her, so that she must stay away from one another. So they don't really form group. But if it does, then it could be that maybe it's a couple, female and a male, mating, or a mother and a cubs. Remember, they give birth to anything from 2 to 1 cubs at a time. Here's a yawn. Look at that. So where he's coming towards us, look at this. Stretch. I'll lie down again. Well, I might say leopards are a lot active than the lions, for sure. When it comes to stand up for the lions and decided to move, it's a mission, so it's not easy for them. But this male he's so good on it. He's just on his move now. He's gonna scratch. And again, he stopped and listening. It could be something that brought him his attention to look or focus more on the east, where the hearing is excellent. Can hear things that we cannot hear or cannot smell. And the wind, when I look at it, it blows to him, so there's a chance he could smell further away. If something died or dead out there, he will finally reach that destiny. He's trying to focus on listening, It will be another car that's coming in here. So if you hear noises a little bit, coming to view the same animal. Look at this eye now, he's looking at us. A lot of little scars across his face. He's just Rasisi. Yeah, he is still territorial around here. So he moved to the north quite often because of another male trying to come in here. But this is, usually happening to male leopards. Challenge, it goes on and on and on. But whoever then finally win, he will win the territory. But for him coming back again, and then for the reason for that, it's that, he has to reactivate the scent every now and again. And the male is actually in competition with him. I haven't met him yet, but I heard of a name, Mlawati. So, I haven't met him. I don't know how big he is. But many of the time is that a leopard will go older And this is where they lost their fight. With these young male, they come with a lot of strength against the older. And so that a lot of time, seeing them lost their fight. When these particular leopard, we're looking at it right now, Tingana, he came in from the west. When I saw him push away an alleged Mvula, and Mvula pushed out of this territory belonged to him. Then he moved off. Now Tingana take it. Still his until now.
Hello everybody, welcome to Juma and welcome to the river. Some magical tricks can be done with the Land Rover when you have it in low range. You don't actually need to drive. It's quite magical, don't you think? Theo is not driving, he's working the camera. So we're just going for a stroll down the riverbed. The car is just ticking over. I could sit on the bonnet if I wanted to, but that is rather dangerous to do so. Powerful. These vehicles just go. It's all about four-wheel drive if you need it. And in sand, sometimes you need four-wheel drive. We don't really drive down this river, but it's a nice casual stroll. We left our elephants feeding in the thickets, and we thought I think Tristan is in camp. Not in Wild Earth, but he has arrived at Tambeta with some guests.
Sorry about that. We still have our beautiful Tingana looking now still. But now he's taking a few steps now, he's moving away from us. I was so afraid that he's going to move directly east because there's another drainage line which is very deeper. If he does though, then we weren't going to cross that. But the way he does, there's a very good chance that we might stick with him, see how far he goes. I'll be driving towards him or follow him, see what he does there. Just do it. Wow, looks like still got him there, but he's close to that ravine, the drainage line. So I'm not gonna push too much close to him. This I think is good for us to look what he's up to. He's still looking east in there, so eventually stick around for us.
Welcome back to Ambient Pinda. Craig and I have left those elephants and we're now continuing with our search for those black rhino that we're after this afternoon. Now have a look out in front of me here. You'll see there's a bit of a ravine and then a little hill on the other side. And just over that hill there is quite a big area in a controlled fire, and I've spoken about it quite a few times, how the fires, although they look very destructive, they often stimulate new growth, and they'll often cause the sugars in bushes to caramelize in the tips of the branches. And black rhinos, being browsers, they absolutely love that. And so often after a fire is burnt out, after a few days or a few weeks, the black rhino will start to move in there to go and feed. Now with the sun slowly starting to set behind us, I think it's with black rhinos often being quite nocturnal, this is a really good time for us to go ahead into those areas to go and check. But before we go and do that, I have to apologize to all of you. I've made a bit of a mistake. Earlier I showed you that little creeper with that beautiful white flower on top of the bush, and I had said that it was a woolly caper bush, but having a closer look now at a few of the other ones that I've passed, I've realized that it's not. It's got a very distinctive little fruit, which is indicative of a bush cherry. So I'm going to show you in the book quickly. Firstly, what I initially said it was, incorrectly. So there is what I thought it was there. That flower over there, which is the woolly caper bush. See, with also those long filaments coming out of the flower. Now, an important difference with the woolly caper bush is that it's got a different leaf structure to the plant that I'm going to show you now, the bush cherry. This also has very nasty paired hooked thorns. Yeah, as I said, unpleasant. The plant that it actually was is this one, Marua junkia, rough-skinned bush cherry. And see, there are those very similar looking white flowers, those big round, well, not so big, those small round fruits that give us away as being a bush cherry. So quite similar looking in terms of the apologies for that mistake, everybody. See the different leaf structure. I'm going to show you just over here. It's got quite a distinct little trifoliate leaf, the 3 lobes there. And both of them flowering at similar times of the year, starting to come into bloom now. But just wanted to correct myself there. Apologies for that. Alrighty, so we've had a pretty exciting afternoon so far with all the different large herbivores, the giraffe, the white rhino, and then those elephant bulls. We even saw some buffalo off in the distance. So we're now going to make our way down into this little dip, past that beautiful big fever tree, and up over the rise, and then we'll go and get our binoculars out and start scanning to see if we can spot some of those black rhino. Glenn, you're asking about black rhino and how easy it is to find them. You're asking if they're very well camouflaged. Well, Glenn, they're very similar in colour to the white rhino that we saw earlier. They're also that grey colour, and I suppose their body will take on different shades depending on what kind of mud or what colour mud they've been rolling in. So here, where there's lots of red soil, they might appear to be a bit more red from rolling in red mud and having red dust being blown onto them at this time of year. But Glenn, because of their habit of being quite reclusive,
yeah. Come back, everyone. So our leopard, we just described that, is going to cross this drainage line system, and that we just lost him right now, but he might actually come maybe at the Galago pen somehow. But he would just disappear. Like, I was just waiting to see if maybe there's a chance of him returning back here. But since he was smelling further east, then yeah, we lost him just like that. So we'll try. As you can hear, it's like three cars already, 2 cars, including me. And they will be also trying to see if they can find his visual. So that we're going to go back to maybe Galago Pen there, see if he comes out there in that direction. But he's walking along the drainage lines now. So he's not actually, he didn't cross, but he just drop in and walk along the drainage line system. I'm just going to see if I can turn around here to check on the other side there, hopefully come out. Just turn around.
So
I hear Andrew is talking about elephants, and I heard that there's been a lot of elephants seen today. Now, we have left that leopard. At the moment, there's some people that come to visit Ngala, and we'd like to share whatever we find with the other people as well. So, from here on, some little bee eaters flying over. But from here, we're going to head towards the far part of the riverbed, and we're going to see if we pick up on any signs of anything else. Now, I know that there has been a leopard with 2 young ones in that area as well, and we're hoping that we might pick up on some of their tracks. And this morning we heard that they had a lioness somewhere in the area. Now, it's very unusual for that lioness to be off on her own, and I think that maybe the rest of the Pride, or at least some of the Pride members, might be in that area as well. And we are just going to go and investigate. Around us, we're in a pretty interesting area. It's a lot more open than the rest of the reserve because we're further away from the big Timbavati riverbed. And what we see around us is not all dead trees. You can see, I know there's no leaves on them at the moment, but that's just because of the time of the year. We've already noticed this morning that there's some, or after the sunshine from this morning, there's some green grass, which is something that we haven't seen for a very long time. Now, most of these trees will grow their leaves back once the rains come and once the season change. But there are some, however, that's been badly damaged because of the elephants. In fact, one very clear example is right here next to us. I just want to give you a quick view of that. You can see there is a number of trees, like this one over here has been completely broken off by the elephants, and they've actually started eating parts of it. And everywhere in the back, and now we can see there's a pretty large dead knobthorn off to the left, and that tree right there has been debarked by elephants. Now, usually what happens is the elephants, towards the end of the dry season specifically, they need certain dietary requirements. For instance, this tree, the bark is pretty high in calcium, and then they debark the tree, which eventually exposes the inner wood, and that exposes the tree to beetles, to other parasites, and eventually the tree dies, and then it becomes this kind of haunting figure within the landscape. And this particular area is filled with that. Now, it is a beautiful view in the background though, and you can see there's some trees with leaves left on them. But because this is so far away from the riverbed at the moment, and I think after the rains, most of the animals have moved to those areas. Laura, what time would be the best time to visit Ngala? I'd say any time of the year. It doesn't matter whether it's winter or summer. I would say that animal interactions in the dry season, which is our winter time, is probably more likely to happen due to the pressure on water and more animals going towards certain watering holes, which means that their movements are more predictable. But in summertime, we have the beauty of the area. Everything will turn and become green, which in itself is also something to see. And also it's the season when a lot of the animals lamb, which means that we'll see a lot of baby animals at that time. So each time of the year has its own perks. Now, I think we're gonna keep continuing on towards that riverbed, and we'll see. This area that we're going to be passing through now is quite open. There is it's a little bit different from the rest of the areas, and it's also a little bit more bumpy in this area. But eventually, as we get closer towards the riverbed, we'll start seeing taller trees. And that taller trees is usually the indication of exactly where the riverbed runs. Also the grasses in this area, because most of this is an area that's laid lower down than the area that we've just come for. So the soils that settle here after the rains is all the good alluvial soils with the best kind of grasses or best kind of food. So the animals like the zebra, the impala, the wildebeest, they will all start moving into this area as the grasses start to grow. The soil type in this particular area is also changing. It actually changes from what is mostly a granite-based soil to a gabbro-based soil. So we have more thorn trees in this particular area. Most of the large trees here are knob thorns. And because of the giraffe's fondness of the knobthorn, we tend to see a lot of signs of them in this area. Megan, that's a very good question. I don't actually know the answer. Will it erode or will it build up? I'm pretty sure since it has been eroding up until now, I think it will be eroding mostly. And that's essentially what forms these plains. It's these gabbro intrusions within the granite. So initially when this area was formed through volcanic activity, the areas with the gabbro kind of eroded into a smooth, very fine textured soil. And I think from here it'll probably erode even more. As the rains come over many, many years, I guess eventually areas will wash out and the rivers will grow larger. But to be honest, I don't really know. I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on that. But you'll notice that now it's changed completely. It's a lot more open with a lot more dead knob thorns nearby. Not all of them are dead. And it's kind of a haunting landscape this time of the year. It's hard to imagine that when we have our summertime, it'll be completely green.
Welcome back to the spring of the Lowveld, everybody. And one of our most beautiful trees that start blooming quite early on is the Scotia brachypatella, the weeping boerbean. I can hear a Morocco sunbird in there. It's a great tree to stop and have a look at because it's producing an enormous amount of nectar. You find all sorts of birds in there. There's a few starlings. Theo's going to try and move around, see if he can catch you some birds. But there are birds all over the place, very fast moving. I had a scarlet-chested sunbird here the other day. There's some Birchall's starlings. Everybody enjoying the bounty of spring. Might be able to hear the Morocco sunbirds. That very loud. I think that might be one. Is it? Yes, it looks like it. That actually looks like an amethyst now on the bottom. Show us yourself. Oh, I think it's an amethyst. Yes. Amethyst sunbird. And there are definitely Moroccos in there as well. I can hear them. How pretty. The Heil Boerboon in Afrikaans. Wonderful tree. A really good place to stop if you enjoy your birds. Attracts enormous amount of insects. There we go. There is a female. JJ, you want to know what the most common trees are in this area? Well, definitely be the red bush willows, the magic worry. I suppose there's about 20 or 30 that are very common. Leadwood, knobthorn, marula. Here we go, let's see. Oh, he's very quick. He's very quick. Trying to get a handle on them is tricky. Leadwood, marula, red bush willow, russet bush willow, magic guarri, hairy guarri, or natal guarri. The bird's just starting. You just heard a brown-crowned chagra. The boerbeans they're pretty common, but they're not as abundant as the other trees. They get smashed by elephants. Now, we generally find them growing on top of termite mounds in drainage lines where there's quite deep soil. Jackalberries also, trees that grow like that, are also quite common, as well as the apple leaf, the African weeping wattle. There's quite a few trees that, or tambuti as well, are all very habitat specific. We've got a couple very specific habitat types here along the river, where you have your tall canopy-like trees that are obviously water-loving. And you can also get your sort of sodic areas or your seep lines, which are quite commonly characterized by magic guarris, and where the soil is sandy, by silver cluster leaves. And on top of the slopes, you get the red bush willows interspersed throughout the area, wherever there's water, by apple leaves. Wonderful ornamental tree for your garden. Lots of new leaves pushing through. Casper's beautiful colour. Really have the turn. There we go. That is another sunbird. Sorry, I didn't quite get a look at him. I can hear a white-bellied sunbird as well. Beautiful colours. The flowers just emerged the day after the rain. Suddenly the flowers were on this tree, which is quite something. And I've only seen one other scotia on the property, one other boerbean with flowers at the moment. But I haven't been everywhere yet. There's another sunbird on top. I'm not quite sure who he is, so we'll spend another moment or two, see what other sunbirds we can identify.
We've been seeing lots of flowering boerbeans here at Ambient Pinder. Steve, you must come and have a look over here. Craig and I are still busy on our search for this black rhino. No luck just yet. We've come through a burnt section, and this little object here caught my eye. And I don't know how many of you have seen this before, but it's almost like a little piece of solidified insulation foam. And it's been made by a praying mantis. And it's called an Utica. And this is the egg capsule that a female mantis will lay her eggs in. So she'll land on the little branch, and she will produce this foam out of her abdomen and lay her eggs inside it, and then as it is exposed to the air, it will solidify until it gets to the consistency of insulation foam. And then once the eggs are ready to hatch, they'll hatch out and move off into the world. And it's just a way for them to stay safe from predators while they're vulnerable and small. Now, as Craig zooms out, you'll see that around us it's quite barren and quite burnt. And this is exactly the kind of thing that I was talking about earlier, where there's been a fire that's come through here, and where we're hoping to find some sign of a black rhino somewhere around. I've got my binoculars in hand and I've been scanning the hillsides very carefully, trying to find some sign or just some indication that there's been a black rhino in the area. But so far, we haven't had any luck just yet. And I'm sure you can see now the sun is starting to come towards the horizon, starting to get low in the sky. And really hoping that we'll be able to find one for you before the sun does go down. Now, we've been speaking a bit about the differences and the changes of season now, with us coming into spring here at Ambionpinda, but still with the area being quite dry. The animals are all focusing and congregating quite a lot around water, and it's the same thing with these black rhinos that we're looking for. During the summertime, when there's been lots of rain, there's lots of mud wallows, and so the rhinos are quite spread out, and wherever there's mud wallows, they can kind of go there and they can roll in the mud, they can get water to drink. But now, during the dry season, they have to be a lot more careful about where they go. They've got to stay relatively close to water. So Craig and I are going to keep making our way back towards where we saw that giraffe where we started the show, to go and check by that waterhole there to see if there's any indication that a black rhino has maybe moved through there in the time that we've been gone.
Welcome back this beautiful afternoon and beautiful light again. So we have to leave the area of the beautiful cat. Tingana seems to be not coming out of that drainage line system. And what I heard from the guys is still waiting to see if he can, but there hasn't yet. And we come this far, western boundary of Ijuma and the other reserve, Mbambile. And here we got a beautiful herd of elephants crossing the road. To the west. It's good because we're about to cross there, so we're just going to follow them. I'm going to get slightly close to them. They're moving away from us. Rebecca, I missed the question. I was driving. Elephants, they don't, Sabelo, good questions. You know, also when I was young asking the same question, but then when I grew up, then I'm able to understand. So elephants, they don't, when they're young, are you able to see the fur on their skin, but not like you see on a buffalo normally. And same to rhino, same to hippos. So they're well developed with such a massive, layer of skin. But they don't grow fur on them. But if you have a chance of looking out, I know they're far away, the fur that you may see underneath of the bottom jaw and close to the mouth and around the mouth, and also the ear hole, and that's the fur they got, especially the bigger elephant. So we'll drive slightly close to them there. Maybe we have another look. It seems that this female is pushing away from us, trying to catch up with the rest. Right, it's another young young female elephant there. So we're talking about the fur on them. Still not good enough light to be able to zoom through these, the ears. But not much of the fur, just a little bit. And both sides of the ear as well. But only an ear hole, so nothing around the body of the animal. You only see them when they were like a few months old. That you see a little bit of the hair on them, but they shed off as they grow up. Underneath of their bottom jaw, you may also see a little bit of this fur in there when she's chewing. We'll stick a little bit with them, see what they're doing here.
Welcome back to Treehouse Watering Hole in Djuma, where we've got our hippo who's decided that's what he's decided. I thought he was going to hide under the water, so I'm going to allow you all to just enjoy a few moments of quiet as we listen to some birds and maybe some splashing of our hippopotamus. Jen, you'd like to know what animal would hunt hippo? Well, he's found himself a stick. That stick's got no chance. Now, lions will very commonly hunt hippo. Big hippo are very difficult to catch or bring down. A very dangerous animal to hunt because of those teeth. Yeah. Crocodile also will every now and again, if a female or a calf is isolated, will try and go for them, but they learn very quickly that's a bad idea if mum is around. Hippos can bite a crocodile in half. So, the Uncle Homer... Yes, you will bite a crocodile in half, he agreed. Uncle Homer's killed the hippo last year, I believe, at Tswalu. I didn't see it. I don't know how it happened or how big it was. But obviously, smaller hippos are more susceptible to being brought down by lions than big hippos. It's not a very easy feat. They have quite a low center of gravity and very thick skin. And as you saw, those teeth are not designed for eating, they're designed for fighting and defense. So there are far easier prey animals out there than hippo, but lion are opportunistic, of course.
Jambo Jambo, hello, and welcome to the Masai Mara, the great savannah that you can. And sorry, we have not been out here for quite some time, but finally we are, and my name has not changed. It remains David. Jambo, everybody, and with me on camera is Bungay, how are you, sir? And the first thing I want to show you is the beautiful Masai Mara, the savannah, and some of the iconic trees of this area that we call the balanites, occasionally call them Egyptaka, and there they are. It's very quiet at the moment where we are. We've just been enjoying some breeze and some thunderstorms a little bit here and there. Some huge wall of rain coming way on the eastern horizon. And everything so far so good. And for once, I have thought of looking for a rhinoceros. I haven't looked for a rhino here for quite some time. And having the black rhinos here, which tend to remain in the thickets or in the bushes, and knowing that the black rhinos are browsers, we know particularly the areas they like to venture, and that's where exactly I want to go and find out. If I am lucky, I'll be able to catch. And on my way there, and just hold on 1 minute. I'm sure, as my friends have told you before, I just want to confirm something very quickly. I think we're good. We're just checking the sound levels, and I'm sure, as my friends must have told you before, should you have any questions, please don't be shy. Send them through. Any comments, same. And as usual, tweet hashtag Wild Earth. So, let me see how lucky I will be. It could be a rhino, it could be anything else on the way.
Beautiful, you know. It would be a rhino, would be very nice. With us right here, we're still sitting with this beautiful herd of elephants. You know, I only counted 3 when we come in, but then looks like it's more of them around here. We kind of like surrounded by this beautiful herd of elephant, busy doing their own things, feeding. Look, there are more of them there. Looks looks like one of the big female and a young one. The young one always like to stick around their mother because in case the mother push such a big tree down or something that the young one cannot afford to do it, and the young one will always go share with the mother. Remember, elephants also take care of one another. For example, if one of the females here die and left behind the young one, which is still drinking milk, if there is other female that they're also lactating, feeding their babies, so also let that young one to go drink and also treat that young one as their own. This is what it builds a herd. Remember, they're also a social animal, but you will never get tired of watching them because they're non-stop when they started to feed. Look at this group of them there. The big female in the middle there. You can see the head is square head. Ron, very important question. So elephants, their tusker, on the other hand, is their weapon. It's their protections. And they can use them, especially males, fight using them between another male for a dominate. They're not territorial, but dominate, it counts on them, even though we found a whole group of male bachelor all mixed up in all different age. But they still fight for a dominate. And a dominate can change from time to time if either comes weaker or lost the fight. Then, but both female and the males will carry this horn, tuskers you call them, just because of the way they need them in terms of feeding. It works better with the trunk. The trunk is only nostrils and the hand. It's actually a special tool they ever have. Elephants using their trunk to able to break the branches. But the tusk also, they play an important role in the animal, which helps the trunk to break off the branches. You find some branches are hard enough that the elephant cannot pull it out. But if you look at that female there, these tuskers, the feathers one, it looks like she used it more. It hasn't actually cut it off yet, but you see the tip end. It looks like it's something wound up. It's because she used that pretty much when she feed. And most of the elephant, they either could be handed or left in, just like human. I was one of the young one there, also in the middle of that group. And they are so protective. If there's anything wrong happen here, ran across in the middle of them, and they all get frightened. I've seen elephants run away from, or just a little lizard ran through grasses, but they didn't even see it. Only the noises that was, shaking grasses, and they make a whole herd run. Was only one started to run, all of them just ran, and they were all just grumbling. Tony, when there's a new matriarch take over the herd, so understanding that the herd, of course, lead by one of the female that she's an old in a group. So it happens sometimes she die, and then it works pretty much like it's in a family. So one of the female in a herd, she will be pointed in a way that she would be in the next a matriarch. But also matriarch, we understand, is the only elephant that then a fully growing animals in a group. So the matriarch change in that way of one, you find maybe one die, the matriarch previous will die. And that happens, the one just going to go around without matriarch. It's got to be another matriarch coming out of the herd. And it can't be any one of them. Could be one that they all understand this is the one that we have actually been showed us. This is going to be our leader. And if you take time, watch the herd of elephants, spend a lot of time with them, because it's not only just easy to see which one's which, most especially in this group. I've seen a lot of big female, but I cannot point to which one is it now, unless if maybe I sit a few hours with them to see how they interact, which one they trust most, which one they're listening to it most, to be able to follow it. Because now we only tell by looking at the individual female how she control them. If she stop, or if she change direction, move back where they just come from, they have to do that, all of them. So then you know that could be one of the matriarch. Look at this bath. This is how they do. They eat a lot of food. Since they non-stop feeding, feed and digest and they defecate. And when it comes to defecation, they don't care where they defecate, in the water, when they swim, urinate at the same time, but they drink that water. Pretty much. Here's our female still around in this wood. Haven't moved far. Oh, we're just gonna take a moment of silent listen. Looks like an impala's alarm call. We're gonna leave them, go search what's going on. There's impala's alarm calling back there.
Welcome back to our very athletic hippo at Treehouse watering hole. He's given us a few little splashes. I think he's trying to encourage us to understand this is his territory. He's not shy to defend it. This time last year, this watering hole was completely dry. And after the small amount of spring rain we had, definitely level has gone up. So he's quite happy because there's lots more rain on the way. Now, he's defending a territory. Just hopes some ladies will come and visit. The scene is just getting prettier and prettier. They spend the entire day in the water and maybe even some evenings, but they come out at night to feed. Spend a few hours out at night feeding. They can cover quite a vast distance depending on how available the food is. They spend a huge amount of their time in the water. It's a very nice adaptation for them. They use the water to cool themselves down and the sun to warm themselves up. And so they've evolved a very nice strategy of survival, but one that is a problem when water holes and rivers dry up. They have to keep themselves moist. They have to cover their body in water. Otherwise they dry out. So they are very susceptible to droughts. Droughts reduce the available water space, and it also leads to the biggest and strongest hippos holding the best territories. So definitely does eke out the weaker among the population. We're going to spend another few moments here with this very athletic boy.
Stunning sunset here at Prideland Eco Training Camp. What a beautiful way of ending a day in African bush. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow myself to introduce myself to the team and to everyone. My name is Norman Chauke, and I'll be joining Eco Training World Earth team as well here at Eco Training Pridelands Conservancy. Hi, Kali. To me, African sunset are always a symbol of, being an African, being in Africa. A stunning or a brilliant way of ending my day after a very successful a day or even a bad day. But it's just stunning to watch them reflect to how beautiful the day was. I mean, look at those clouds, nice coloration on the sky, a beautiful silhouette of trees. I can hear like a dove calling on my right, saying, drink lager, just, ending my beautiful day in African bush.
Indeed. Sun setting in the west, glittering off of the beautiful water that the wind is dancing across, and our hippo is playing it with a stick. Suppose you've got no friends, any tool will do, won't it? We've seen the hippo at Vuyatela watering on quite often, playing with certain things, big logs, big sticks. Got to practice somehow. Maybe he's going to porpoise for us again. I'm actually a little bit blinded of that light coming off of the water. Sold you dummy, Theo, you went left. You know, if we were here in the Mara, not once we have seen hippos coming out, like here in the open, and just grazing and walking around, not waiting for the darkness to fall. It's very normal here in the Mara. Even in the mid of the day, in the heat of the day, you could still see, just hippos totally way away from the water, just walking around. I got very sleepy or very snoozy hyenas here. And these are the spotted hyenas. And I wouldn't know what clan they come from, because the only possible clans I would think of from where I am is the Ololo clan, and the nearest from here is the North clan. But either of those clans are quite far. So I wouldn't say the two would come from either of those two groups. I've not been able to establish whether they're males or females from the position they are in, but you can tell either they're very tired or they're just very sleepy. One looks a little lighter than the other. Sometimes that may show a bit of age difference between the two, but not always. Stella, to me, these hyenas here are just resting, because if you look at that ditch, it's more of a drainage because when it rains so much here, we get water collecting on the road. And what the park management will do is sometimes create the drainages, what we locally call trenches here, so that it can drain the water away from the road to keep the surface solid and looking good. But I got a feeling they're just enjoying the warmth on that part. If you look at that particular area carefully, there's no grass covering that area. It's only soil, the black cotton soil, and I guess they're just getting some warmth for themselves. I wouldn't think of any concern to these two hyenas here in terms of predation, and I would not say they're protecting themselves from anything that could come and harass them or even eat them. No lions have been seen in this area for a couple of days. And if anything, is only lions that could give them slightly bit of a threat, but not hunt them or eat them, but they always don't get along very well. Chris, you're asking why we call the Mara Triangle now. The Mara is a very huge game reserve, and is about 1,500 square kilometers. And it's divided into two just because of different management. We have what we call the main Mara, and we have what we call the Mara Triangle. From where I am, this is my east, and that's where the main Mara is, or the Greater Mara. Now, when I say Mara Triangle, the Mara Triangle, you're looking at the shape of a triangle, and it has three boundaries. Assume that's a triangle. So one boundary of the triangle is the Mara River, which I'm looking at in that direction. Behind me, maybe Bungay, who is on camera today, might show you, is what we call the Ololo Escarpment. It's the other side of the triangle. And the final side of the third arm of the triangle is the boundary between Kenya and Tanzania, or the boundary between Masai Mara and the Serengeti National Park. What you see there, that's the Ololo Escarpment. And of course, that is our western horizon. And you can see the sun slowly dropping and setting
And the Mara Triangle is way much smaller than the Greater Mara, maybe 450, 500 square kilometers. We'll be watching that sunset, see whether it's going to get a little bit better than that. And then maybe we'll let you know as I keep my plans of looking for the rhino that I had promised earlier.
Welcome back to Djuma, everybody, and welcome to the sunset this side. And once again, as always, during these sunset moments, if you'd all like to just take a moment to yourselves, just to take a deeper breath, just to breathe it all in. This is beautiful and magnificent, and Beach Bunny. I don't know, I prefer both. Sunrise, sunset. It all depends on the day, I suppose. Sunrises and sunsets both have their own magic. One is the dawning of the day and one is the coming of the night.
beautiful, the sunset, of course, indeed. In this beautiful country, look at this, sun going down. And all you see is this individual dead trees and live tree. Cloud is just a bit of a cloud, but this is how the day is going to end. You can slightly see how the sun moves, even though it's so far from us, but just beautiful. Things on earth is sunrise, sunset, a lot of pollution, dust. That's the sun's approaching. That's why you see it looks huge. Then when it's above center, this is how it's going to be disappeared. So western part of a Drakensberg mountain. It's called Pietermaritzkop mountain. This is where we're looking at. You can't see exactly the mountain, but you can see already the sun, quarter of it is already, sank down beyond that mountain. So Pietermaritzkop, on northern end of a part of a Drakensberg mountain, direction of the west from where we are, Djuma. It's always direction of wherever you are, and you get lost in this area. Once you view the mountain, you head that direction, it's home. But Djuma, it's an eastern game reserve.
Beautiful, amazing sky with one of our magnificent elephant. He's just gonna spend few hours on this, just like getting his last more or less. Yes. Felix, my favorite animal it's an elephant, and reason for such, there's this special connection that I have between me and them, and especially when one is on foot or maybe sitting by a water hole, watching them behave. They're actually very intelligent animals. They have senses almost like us humans, like very, very good memories to remember events or certain things, routes that they use all the time when living in the bush. One of my experience that I experienced when I just started working with eco training in Makuleken, in Pafurin, in Kruger National Park. It was observing this cow that pass on from anthrax disease, and the whole head, including the cow calf, everyone was just mooning, but this cow calf was just like, putting her front feet on top of the mom, like, I don't know what it was saying, but it was definitely saying something. That's the day that I fell in love with elephant. This is the time these animals will spend breaking lots of branches down and just simply going for the Kemiam lion, yes? Repeat the question. Can you please repeat the question? Okay, it's Oli. Hi, Oli. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not really sure, but most of the plants elephant will utilize or will feed on. However, I can go back when I'm back in camp and do some research if there is any specific plant that elephant cannot feed on.
Well, in the Mara also, I don't know what plants elephants could not eat, but elephants are known to eat as much vegetation as is available. Now, this is a lapwing here, and I just stopped. Would you fly away? At least we saw it. Good job, Bungay. And the reason for stopping was because of the call it makes. You're coming back, maybe. Who knows? Let's find out. I love your camera, Bungay. Many thanks. But I want to first pose a question for you. Which lapwing do you think that was? I've already given you 50% of the answer. Hashtag World Earth. Which lapwing do you think that was? But the reason I stopped is because in my village, we have, of course, all these lapwings and other bird species. When I first heard that, lapwing call, and especially during the breeding time, they're very vocal. And in the evenings, they are more vocal than during the day. And when I first heard it, I argued with my friends that that was not a bird. It must have been a big mammal because they're quite vocal and they're very, very loud. And when I came to know, actually, it was that small little bird, that lapwing, well, I swallowed the humble pie to believe the truth, but I would want to know which lapwing do you think that was? Hashtag World Earth. And give me an answer. I already gave you 50% of the answer. Bianca, well done. What-toed lapwing, well done. Well done, Bianca. I can see you can be a good birder, and that is what sometimes gives us challenges here as presenters or as guides, because an elephant will never change, a lion will be the same. But birds could sometimes confuse you, and especially if they're in breeding plumage, you'll see them having different colors, and the water lapwings, when they're in that particular breeding season, you get the waters getting bigger and more yellowish and looking a little different. We have seen certain birds, like the bastards, for example, the Kori bastard, you'll see them going that big, or the neck puffing up and the feathers going this way, and at times they look very different birds, and actually they're the same species of birds, Bianca, very well done. Asante sana. Still have my plans of looking for a rhino at one point. I'm still very hopeful. Just asking my most favorite bird of all of them. It's only one, and it's the national bird of Kenya, and it's called the lilac-breasted roller. I love them for two reasons. Number one, when you see them during, again, the breeding season or while in reproduction, these birds have been known to mate in the air. And that's how they got that name. For me, I think that's very special to be able to mate in the air. Number two, for a bird that's like the size of your arm, like that big, that roller have so many colors, that when you see them in flight, they're very colorful. Hopefully we might be able to catch one before we end our live safari today. How are you? And I like your question. It's only that's not the morning drive, but I hope you're going to join me tomorrow morning and you're talking my favorite color. And I'm going to stop here. Not sure whether Bungai's camera is going to pick my favorite color, because Caro, my favorite color is right here. And this should explain to you why this is my favorite color. Grass, I mean, green is my favorite color. And Bungai knows. And if tomorrow, Caro, you're going to join us for the safari, I'll come with my very famous green shuka. And when you don't see me in safari clothes, most of the clothes I wear at home will have some sort of green, you know, a light green, a dark green, different shades of green is what I wear. The only thing that I don't wear green are the shoes, but from the heart, from my pants, from my shorts, from my t-shirts, jackets, they'll always have a tint of green in them. The cameraman I'm with here, Bungai, his favorite color, just to let you know, it's black. Everything he wears is black, including his gloves. Very good. Let me not talk more of colors now. Let me talk of what I promised you before, the black rhino. So let's cross fingers for that.
Welcome back to Ambient Pinda. Craig and I have searched every square centimetre of these plains for any sign of a black rhino, but we haven't had any success at all. We found some tracks from earlier today and some old dung from an old midden, but otherwise no luck. We've tried very hard, but unfortunately that's how it goes sometimes. We were discussing earlier how elusive they can be and their preference for thick bush, and how that can make them quite hard to find, especially if it is a little bit windy. But I think we're just going to stop here for a second. There's a beautiful scene off to the west. Some Aramark babblers calling. Listen to that. And also some hardy dars in the distance. Even an African paradise flycatcher calling behind me in the riverbed below. Lots of different birds all calling their last as the sun starts to set. Here we go. What has Craig spotted over there? Something hopping around. Oh, it's the babblers. Well spotted there, Craig. Couple of Aramark babblers. No doubt getting ready for the evening ahead. Gonna go and roost somewhere in a dense thicket where, and out on the edge of a little branch where they're going to be safe from all kinds of little nocturnal predators. Sure, what a beautiful end to the day.
Welcome back to Joom, everybody, where we've got 3 species of mammal. Just seeing the movement off to the right is a big elephant bull moving across. There's 4 big kudu bulls on the left, and then two Nyala bulls as well that are joining them. You'll be able to see the size difference between a Nyala bull and a kudu bull, which is quite interesting. And a very irate Franklin. My elephant is going to pop out and chase the Franklin. Kudu are quite happy that spring has arrived. Beautiful boys. There he is. Are you in must, fellow? No, he's not. Smelling something. Love to be able to smell like that for a day. He's got a injured or deformed tip of his trunk. Going behind the vehicle, everybody. Let me just turn quickly so we can get him. Hello, my boy. What are you doing? Tip of his trunk has seen better days. It's healed, though. Not uncommon to find elephants with injured tips of their trunks. Sadly, some of it is a byproduct of snares. I've seen them get on quite all right with it, though. He's walking on a big game path. That'll take him all the way to Chitwa if he keeps heading that way. And there he departs on his merry way.
Welcome back. We're still here at Eco Training Pride Land in Ndlovu Dam. We've been quite blessed with the bush sound. So there's been like lots of francolin, few geese that were calling around here. So if you listen up closely for some alarm calls, it's actually quite amazing sometimes, just, listening to the sound of the bush. If you remember quite well, somewhere around this time yesterday, late afternoon, we had Mommy Pixie Pen with her two cubs coming to drink here. We'll stick around here and keep on listening and waiting. You never know. Maybe we'll be lucky or maybe not. Oh yes, Darren. So one of my favorite night sound. It's actually a Niger. There's a common one that we get here around the Lofeld, the fiery-necked Niger. So he makes a very unique call that when you do a donkey bridge, it actually sounds like, as the bird is saying, like, good Lord, deliver us. Good Lord, deliver us at late evenings. So yes, Darren, I do have a favorite night sound.
Welcome back to Ambient Pinda. Craig and I have found this impala, or pair of impala rams, and there were also initially a couple of females there too, a couple of ewes. And when we first spotted them, what was most kind of, I don't know if alarming is the right word, but what we really noticed was the fact that they were all staring very intently off to the left. And look, he's still doing it. See how he keeps kind of almost like lifting his neck up, like trying to peer over the tops of the grass. Well, now it's he's now obviously not that interested in whatever it was that he was looking at. But we thought that just because of how intently they were staring, their body posture was quite stiff. They were looking off into the distance. We thought maybe they'd spotted something, some sort of predator, maybe a leopard or a lion moving through the grassland here as evening sets in. But looking at them now and how they're starting to move off, I don't think that was the case. Looking through my binoculars, I can see quite a big group of wildebeest to our west. And so I think that might be what they were looking at. There you go, the wildebeest heading up the hillside into the last embers of the day.
Yeah, in the Mara, we see loads of those wildebeest, thousands and thousands of them here. I think because of the huge habitats of the savanna that we got. And we don't have wildebeest at the moment, but we got some ellis. Just a few minutes ago, these ellis seemed to have a little scuffle. And they're going, yeah! I'm not sure whether that was the matriarch and whether she was passing any message. Now, you may see elephant looking a little different this afternoon from where we are, or this evening, is because the darkness is catching up with us, and we have gone to infrared. And with infrared, we are able to bring you such sharp and nice images without shining any light to these beautiful animals. Which I think is quite a wonderful technology of having these elephants being seen in this kind of light. But either way, if you look at the tusk, they still look pretty white. I mean, whether we are infrared or not, the tusk will still be showing that white color in them. This small herd just came across the road, trying to so they can pick up the wind, and them approaching the grass. This kind of wind we are having at the moment. So the grass looks quite dry, but either way the elephants will still eat it, because sometimes you see them pulling it out of the ground and they eat the roots, and then you see them shedding off the dry part. So it doesn't mean by seeing the dry grass that's what they feed on. They'll just get it and just eat the roots, which are more nutritious, and they'll definitely be holding sometimes a lot of moisture in them. It's more your tiny baby right there. Not sure she has matured enough to be able to eat grass like the old cows. And maybe there could also some young bulls here. And this being the parent. There's some types of grass here in the Mara, whether we have rains or not. It remains in this particular Kara, for example. Elephants will still know exactly what grass or what vegetation to eat. You got some ellis again crossing the road, going to join that bigger herd there, and which got a rather smaller calf than the one I was showing you. You look at that just crossed the road, the very tiny baby there. And initially there were two different herds, but it's just one huge herd. I'm not sure why there was a bit of discontent in the Malia, but I think the matriarch was screaming to them. So we might have smoke for the game rangers just passing us as they're just going to do their normal patrol. I'm just waving them to tell them keep going, we are fine. They could be like wondering whether we have a problem, but then we're just fine and enjoying these ellis here. Wind is picking up, and I was talking with Bungay, and we were saying chances are when we get that kind of wind, it's going to rain. Yogi, elephants will practically eat everything. Stems, roots, and the tree bark, the grass. Elephants, I do not know what they do not eat. Everything is fine for them. They got very strong teeth, and they will definitely, yes, eat the stems, bring the branches down, twigs, leaves. Bungay, this is a jack on the road, or what's this? I don't know. Looks like a jack to me. Right there. Very good. Well done, Bungay. Black-backed jacko. Hello. Good evening, sir. How come you are alone? Jackals normally goes in twos, and I'm sure maybe the other mate could be somewhere else. Unlike the elephants, they'll go in big groups. And when it cools off like this, jackals will come out, looking for chicks or eggs, in the grass, like where she just jumped in. You never know what she is going to catch for herself for dinner. But it's elephants, there's no dinner time and there's no lunch time. They will keep eating throughout, more or less the whole day, feeding, feeding, and feeding. And what a lovely drive it has been this afternoon, both in East Africa and in South Africa. We really want to thank all of you for your questions and for your comments. Remember to join us again tomorrow morning. On behalf of everybody, be safe, thank you, and goodbye.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, glorious people. How are you? I am well, and I hope that you're